topic. We've discussed Hudson-Odoi previously, earlier on in this show. What's the latest news, please, with Gibbs White and Murillo and their futures at the City ground?
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of speculation around those two players, especially heading up to this June 30th deadline. It does look like Forest are going to have to cash in on some players if they are to avoid further FFP and PSR breaches. That's something that the club are desperate to avoid. Again, I think Forest will be well aware if there's interest in a number of their players. We've talked about Hudson-Odoi having interest from Tottenham and other clubs. Gibbs White's obviously on Tottenham's radar, as well as I'm sure a number of other clubs. He's been outstanding for Forest this season and was pretty key to them staying up in the end. And as we've spoke as well, Murillo, I think, was a real find for Forest this season. Really impressive centre-back who I think is only going to get better and better with age as well. So, yeah, there's going to be interest in those three players. But Forest, they're not the most easiest or straightforward clubs to deal with, I think. Especially when you're dealing with the owners, they will demand top dollar for any of their players as well. So I think for Forest right now, it's a case of seeing who they can keep hold of and what money they can get for any players that they're going to have to sell, because they won't be doing too much business until their books are balanced and everything is in place for then maybe to make a few moves of their own in the transfer window, because as we well know, over the last couple of windows, they have been pretty active on the transfer front, bringing in so many players as well. But I think that just shows the ambition of Mark Renacas. He wants Forest to be up there competing. He won't want another season of fighting relegation next season. He'll be looking to back the manager in the transfer market, bring in new signings as well, which he's done in the last couple of windows as well. But yeah, I think the club themselves are going to have to now be savvy. They're going to have to balance the books, otherwise another points deduction will be heading their way, heading into next season as well. So yeah, it's going to be difficult for them to keep hold of their best players. And as I said, the vultures will be circling for the likes of Gibbs White, Hudson-Odoi and Murillo.
For the two that you mentioned there, Pete, Gibbs White and Murillo specifically, what sort of valuation would we be talking for both of those stars at the club?
Yeah, I think you're probably looking £40 million plus for both, maybe more. As I said, they've both had good seasons, just enhanced their reputations with what they've done at Nottingham Forest. And when you've got the likes of the clubs being linked with them, the likes of Tottenham, and Murillo's been linked with Manchester United, PSG, Liverpool and others. So yeah, I'm sure Forest, ideally, if they were to sell Murillo, they would want a bit of a bidding war for his signature as well, with all those clubs maybe registering their interest as well. So yeah, I think in the going market, yeah, you're looking, I think 40 million plus is probably reasonable for both of those players. But yeah, like I said, Forest, they're quite hard to deal with on the transfer front as well. So Markinakis and everybody else at the club will be looking for big money for either of those two players to leave.
Paul, which positions do you think need strengthening for them specifically? Who should they be looking at bringing in? Where should they be targeting players potentially to secure that Premier League status again for next season?
Well, again, if you're going to lose the likes of Murillo and Gibbs White, your two best players, you're going to have to recruit. And you're going to have to recruit cleverly. Murillo, I mean, he's been fantastic this year. I said earlier on in the pod, he's only 21. I mean, he's still very, very fledgling in his career, and they will probably demand a big price for him. Obviously, now we've seen that the Nottingham Forest owner is used to winning European trophies as well. So whether that affects his decision making when it comes to Forest transfers or not, we'll see. But I mean, it's Alanga and Hudson-Odoi have been excellent. The way that he's played the three in behind Chris Wood. Maybe another striker is what they need. Chris Wood, he's got the goals. He's got the goals when needed, but not regularly enough. Is he an out-and-out goal scorer? Is he going to get you 20 a season? Probably, you can't guarantee that. Maybe as a 9. You look at the two holding midfielders, Oliveira, Yates have played in there. I mean, as well, the goalkeeping area for me, they brought Matt Sells in. He's done okay, but they've not got a top level goalkeeper. But again, like Forest and a lot of other teams in this window, I think it's going to be another underwhelming transfer window because of PSR and FFP that we go on about every single week. And we talk on the pod about different clubs facing different things. But Forest are one of the ones that have really got their back to the wall. And it's easy to say what they want, what they need. They need to sign this, they need to sign that. But they can't. They just can't. We've got the richest club in the world, Newcastle, having to sell players to trade. So Forest are no different. They're going to have to cut the cloth accordingly. If they lose Hudson-Odoi, Gibbs White, Murillo, those type of players, they're going to have it all on just to stay in the Premier League next season. They're going to have to be very, very clever recruitment-wise.
And Pete, for some of their fringe players, we know someone like Joe Worrell is returning from the club from his loan spell. Would we expect someone like him to leave? And actually, could there be quite a few fringe players potentially at the club that could go alongside some of those stars to balance the books?
Yeah, obviously the squad is quite bloated. I think they've got 3 goalkeepers on the books right now as well, as Paul mentioned, with Matt Sells. But I don't think it's an area of the team that they have totally resolved and are happy with. Joe Worrell obviously went out on loan to Besiktas in January. Did okay out there as well. I think they won the Turkish Cup as well. So yeah, he'll come back, and I'm sure Forest will be open to offers for him. I think there'll be a lot of clubs looking at him as a relatively cheap signing as well. I think you probably get him for around £4 million. But again, on the flip side, Joe Worrell, I think, has got 2 years left on his contract on good money at Forest, so it'll have to be on his terms as well if he is to leave. That's the problem Forest find themselves in. After signing so many players, they're on long-term contracts on decent money as well, so they might have to sort of pay to enable them to move on as well. So yeah, it's a difficult one for Forest. As I said, I think the club have got the work cut out for them really this year. If they were to lose their best players and have to cash in on them, they're pretty hard to replace, and especially if you're working with a low budget as well, they're almost irreplaceable, I think, for me. So yeah, I think they will be looking at other players that they can maybe move on and sell. And going back to Joe Worrell, I suppose it might not be a huge transfer fee, but he will be pure profit because he's a homegrown player in that respect, and there is a bit of interest from Sheffield United and other championship clubs in him as well. And as I said, I think Forest will be looking to see players who do give them that potential of bringing profit in, and that might help them balance the books, and then again might help Nuno make some of his own signings in the summer as well.
You've just watched a segment from Football Insider's brand new podcast, The Inside Track, with me, Lewis Pearce, alongside the guests on the show. Thanks very much for tuning in. Please do give the video a like, comment your thoughts on the topic, and feel free to share on your social media pages. If you want to listen to the full podcast episode, click the link in the description below. Keep your eyes peeled for plenty more content and exclusives here on The Inside Track.